back to the Max Reality. If you've seen my face before, then you know the drill, but if you're new here, my name's Morgan, and I love talking all things reality TV. We are in the midst of what I am dubbing Shark Fest on this channel, where I am recapping the episodes that we've had so far in season 15 of Shark Tank. So to recap a little what the schedule's gonna be, even though it's changed because I found out some episodes weren't airing when I thought they were. Today is Monday the 27th, and we're talking about episode 2. On Wednesday, we're talking about episode 3, and on Friday, we're talking about episode 4. And then stay tuned for next week for episode 5, 6, and 7. But before we can get started, I have to shout out our special guest, my dog, Max Maxwell. He is so incredibly hard to see. I'll put a little clip in right here of him being adorable in the background.
Are you my little helper? Are you a good boy?
Our sharks for episode 2 are Damon, Kevin, Lori, and Mark, along with returning guest shark and founder of Kind Bar, Daniel Levinsky. Let's dive into the businesses. Our first pitch of the night comes from father and son team Maurice and Miles, who are looking for $200,000 for 10% of their product, StormBag, a sandbag that's activated by water. So here it is. While the bag's dry, it only weighs 1 pound, but then you wet it and 3 to 5 minutes later, it'll weigh 30 pounds. A little background, the reason the father and son decided to start doing this together is because they actually lost their home in the Paradise, California fires. The son actually gave up his career in graphic design to help his dad out.
200,000, 10%, $2 million valuation. You making any money?
So,
dude, that's hard. The guy's telling you the story of his life, and you're jumping into money.
Well, he made you laugh.
This year, they've done $90,000 in sales. It wasn't very clear if they were profitable or not, so we'll just ease right on over that. They retail for $5.50 each, and they cost them $2 to make. Of course, this leads to the next logical question. How much are normal sandbags compared to your sandbags? And so here we are getting into a territory where I am not an expert on something. The brothers say that sandbags are free. Obviously, if I go look on Home Depot or somewhere like that, sandbags aren't free. I have been fortunate enough to never be in a disaster where I needed sandbags, so I don't understand if they mean that services will usually come out and put sandbags out for free during emergencies like flooding, fires, whatnot, or if there is some secret way that people can get sandbags for free. I'm assuming the first thing I said is what is right, but if you have had any experience in this, can you please clarify what they meant? Because then sandbags being free makes a big sticking point for Kevin. Kevin pretty much says that he hates the idea of competing with something that is free, and he is out.
So if I may just respond to that quickly, Kevin.
Well, I don't think you can. Free is free.
After pushback from Kevin about the sales and the fact that other sandbags are free, Miles talks about how their main usage point isn't for big major floods where you'd need a bunch of sandbags. It's more for around the house use. Say you have a pipe burst, you can set this bag here and let it absorb all the water for you. Maurice talks about how his wife apparently fills them up and then sets them on their plants outside to water when they're away, because while they're defilling, I guess that's not the right word, while they're drying up though, the water just goes into the ground and then waters the plants slowly while they're away. So it's not just for one purpose, where you'd also need a lot of them, where free sandbags would be the better idea. It's more for around the house, but that is not really how they're currently marketing it, to be honest. Or at least they weren't marketing it that way in the beginning of this pitch. Kevin may be out, but that's okay because there are 4 sharks in that are still very interested. Lori starts talking to them more about the idea of using it around the house. And you see in the clips that I've shown and everything that they're pretty big bags. And she talks about how it might be a good idea to make little baby bags, little small bags, and market them for the same idea that Maurice's wife uses them. But instead of outdoor big farm plants, using them for indoor potted plants.
Absolutely. Pretty good idea. Good idea.
While Lori is giving them this great idea, Daniel has snuck over to Damon so they can start conspiring a little deal together, which I thought was really interesting. I do not know if they've done a deal together. I probably could just easily look that up, but okay, let's see. If I can find it immediately. Daniel Lubensky and Damon John deal. I can't find this easily, so I'm saying no. Journalism. So Daniel and Damon have come together to make an offer of $200,000 for 40%. One of the main things they say they can offer is that Daniel has military contacts, and that's one way they can get the product out there.
What percent?
After hearing Daniel and Damon's offer, the power pair of Mark and Lori realize they need to come together to make an offer. So Mark scurries on over to Lori, and they come up with the offer of $200,000 for 30%. They say they want to help with repackaging the product for different applications and help change up the different pricing structures based on the application that the item would be used for. Also, I said it like it was super normal, but the way Lori presented their offer, so funny. I have to put it in here.
It has been 15 years making dreams come true for entrepreneurs just like you. So Mark and I were just talking, and we'd like to make some dreams come true for the two of you. So we have an offer as well.
And not just the way Lori presents the offer is unhinged. When Mark starts talking about how they want to help with packaging and design, Daniel gives us this beautiful moment.
Miles and Maurice, when it comes to design and excellence, not only did I design one of the most iconic brands named Kind, but look at Damon. Is there anybody more handsome and better dressed than this guy?
After a long moment of indecisiveness from the father and son, Daniel and Damon decide that, you know what? They'll come down to 30% too. So at this point, all the guys have to think about is which sharks they would like as their partners. Kevin is obviously antsy to move on to the next pitch and is trying his hardest to get the men to make a decision.
Make a decision, guys. That sandbag's gonna blow up. You've got to make a decision.
After much discussion, the pair finally make a decision of Mark and Lori for $200,000 for 30%.
You know where I got mad at on that deal, Lori? That little cute idea you had.
The little
I
baby
hated that
bags.
you came out with that idea.
know.
You got me on that one.
Final thoughts. As I said earlier, this is a product that I'm not an expert on. I don't know anything about sandbags, so I don't really have a whole lot to say about that. I really do love Lori's idea of the mini ones, but it doesn't seem like they're even selling those yet. I went on their website and it seems like they're still doing the same thing with like the bigger StormBag, so who knows? Also, something super random, but I just would love some answers to is the product is called StormBag, and StormBag is made by the bigger company that they call StormTech USA. So then I went on TikTok trying to find video examples of the StormBags to show y'all, and their TikTok is called SwissLink. But even in some of the descriptions, it'll say StormTech. And I just don't understand. I would love some explanation. It doesn't seem like they've posted a video since 2022 though, so I don't know. That's all I got. That's all I got for StormBag, y'all. The second pitch of the night comes from Micah and Katie and their business Return Home, which is a new way to say goodbye to your loved one after they've passed on. They're looking for $2 million for 5% of their business. So here are some pictures from their website and whatnot. Pretty much what they do is called terramation, and it's where they turn human remains into soil in a 60 to 90 day process. This is supposed to be a greener and more natural way to do a burial because unlike a traditional burial, you're not burying a bunch of metal into the ground that's not going to decompose. And with cremation, you're putting a bunch of fumes in the air that don't get put in the air when you do terramation. After the remains have completely returned to soil, they can be returned to the family, or the family can choose to have them scattered in the 8-acre woodland that is owned by Return Home. So I suggest looking them up if you want more in-depth explanation of how this works, because I, again, say this all the time, but I'm not an expert on especially stuff like this. But pretty much they get put into a container, and for a certain amount of time, around 30 to 40 days, there's a time period where, I guess any time, or maybe they're open certain hours, whatever it is, you can come and sit and visit your loved one, and then eventually they're put away, and the process continues, and eventually they are soil that you can plant and do whatever with. That's the long and short of everything, the best I can explain it. Again, if you want a better explanation, go to their social media or their website or anything else. I'm doing my best. Time to go through the numbers. There's no super comfortable way to do this, but we're just going to try our best to get through this all together. The cost you pay as a consumer if you want to have your loved one put to rest like this is $5,500. It costs them around $1,200 to transform the body, and they can do about 70 bodies a month. They break even when they do 23 bodies, and then after that, they start to make profit. Last year, their sales were $350,000, and they matched that number in May of this year. But do we think they're profitable?
We are a money-losing company.
Then we learn, on top of losing all that money, they have raised $5 million. The last valuation they raised at was $20.6 million. That was about a year ago.
Okay, why did you double the valuation from the last raise?
After Kevin asks an unusually reasonable question, Mark tries giving Micah the floor to tell them why it's worth the valuation they're currently asking for.
Micah, this is your moment! Go, go, go!
He then starts talking about the marketing of other funeral homes, pretty much saying, like, what other ones do you know? Then he gives us this great line about how it's not about land grab, it's about brand grab.
Oh, Micah, you blew it. I'm out.
After that, Mark goes out, and all the sharks follow suit. Lori starts by talking about parting stone. One of the first things she says about it is that it's a less expensive alternative, but it's not. And I don't know why she didn't parse this out, but with parting stone, you're still paying for a cremation, so you're just adding on to the price of a cremation. Like they said, it was around $7,000 to $8,000 in there to do that sort of stuff. And Lori's like, well, parting stone is like, we do all that for like $2,000. And it's like, Lori, parting stone doesn't do the cremation. I don't know. You're a partner in the business. Shouldn't you know that? But, you know, I just completely forgot to mention this in the video. But in case you don't know, Parting Stones is a business from last year that Lori and Kevin invested in. You send them your loved one's ashes and they turn them into stones. While she might have been wrong about the price difference in Parting Stone, she at least gives us this great line upon her exit.
And I really look at this and I feel like you need valuation, evaluation.
Got it.
Our guest shark Daniel also hates the valuation, and he too gives us a fun little line.
I could actually see myself accepting your valuation, but only if I closed my eyes and kept them shut with crazy glue.
Damon and Kevin dare to be different with their reasons for going out. Damon says he respects what they do, but he has to be passionate about something to invest in it, and this just isn't something he's passionate about, so he's out. Kevin's biggest thing is that he wishes there was more definition to their business model, and he doesn't like the price that they're charging. He thinks that they should charge the same as other funeral homes and says he hates that they're giving a discount death, and so he is also out. Final thoughts. Obviously, I agree with the sharks about the valuation because that's wild. I cannot believe they came in asking for $2 million. When I was writing the notes, I went back because I thought I heard it wrong. I'd forgotten. I guess I blacked it out because the amount was just so incomprehensible to me. As far as the actual business itself, I mean, it seems really cool. It seems like a good way to do things if you want. But as for Shark Tank, I definitely understand why they left the tank without a deal because wild. Our third pitch of the night is Matador Meggings. Entrepreneur Valentine has made what he calls a sports bra for your man parts, and he's looking for $250,000 for 10% of this innovation in men's activewear. Here's some examples of what they look like. The biggest thing about it is that they have a modesty pad that conceals the groin area and gives you a, as he said, perfectly rounded superhero crotch. That is word for word what he said. I am not just making this up.
Barbara would be going nuts.
They cost him $18 to make, and he retails them for $92. He's been in business for 3 years, and his lifetime sales are $2 million. I do not know whether or not he's profitable or not. That was not made clear to me. But
$2 million?
Package is expanding right now.
the very first year, they did $365,000. Second year, $800,000. Last year, $620,000. And this year, he says they're projecting $1 million, but they'd only done $200,000 so far. Of course, those sales numbers lead to multiple questions. Daniel is first asking why the sales went down in 2022. He responds by saying they used to only be focused on customer acquisition, and now they're finally gearing toward profitability and dialing down on marketing costs. Next up, Kevin asks the question that I was wondering, how is he exactly projecting $1 million? They're currently 6 months in the year and he's only sold 200,000. He says it's because they make up most of their sales in the second half of the year. So we just take him at his word about the $1 million thing, and Kevin moves on to asking about the fact that none of this is proprietary, so what is he doing to stop the bigger companies from taking this idea from him?
The market was big enough.
I want them to copy it.
His reason behind this is that he wants the bigger brands to normalize this product, which will grow the market, which will eventually mean more business for him. That's his logic behind it. His answer leads us again to more questions like, what exactly would he do to differentiate himself from these bigger brands if they steal this idea? Because just because they grow the market, why would that market then want to come to you? He points out that they would come out for their fun patterns and prints and designs. And this leads Kevin to his famous line about when entrepreneurs are the brand.
Valentine, if I give you the 250 and you get run over by a truck, what do I got? A picture of you.
You got a broken truck, because look how fit he is.
Mark then talks about how the Mavs just wear compression leggings and then put shorts over them, which Valentine calls a hideous look. Obviously, they disagree about fashion choices. I could have guessed that. He also says the look is restricting, especially when you're trying to do things like yoga practice. Mark just doesn't agree with it being restricting though, and they just agree to disagree. Damon starts to chime in saying that this is something that's really just for super active people, and Valentine totally disagrees with that. He says that he's seen a lot of variety in his customer base, and this is where everything falls apart and all the sharks start to go out. Kevin obviously doesn't like the idea of the entrepreneur being the brand. He also calls it a hobby business, so he goes out. Mark's biggest thing is kind of what he was saying before, that his biggest competitor isn't going to be Nike. It's going to be some guy putting on some compression pants and then shorts over them. He just doesn't see this as being a big market. So he goes out. Then we have Daniel, who really didn't like his response to Damon's question. He feels like he's going to try to be everything to everybody, and then that's not going to end up working out for him. He thinks Valentine needs to take some time to focus on who he wants his target market to be, and he goes out. Lori isn't sure if this is something a lot of guys would wear, going back to the is this a big enough market idea, so she goes out. Last but not least, we have Damon, who steals Lori's famous line of, "It's a really good business for you, but just not investable for me." So he goes out, and once again this episode, our entrepreneur leaves the tank without a deal. Final thoughts, this product wasn't made for me, so I don't know if it would actually be helpful or any of that, but I do understand why none of the sharks wanted to invest. It does seem very small. I don't know. I could see one of them taking it as a flyer. Maybe if he had asked for less money, somebody might have been more interested. I don't know. I get it though. This is one that I definitely understand why, again, they left without a deal. Our last pitch of the night is Toast It. Sisters Mafe and Coco are looking for $100,000 for 5% of their gluten-free arepas. So here's some examples. An arepa is a Latin American cornmeal bread that you stuff with your choice of filling. You buy these frozen and you toast them and you have a fresh arepa in 5 minutes. They're in about 900 stores like Publix, Walmart, and recently they got into Whole Foods and Central Market. They cost them $2.30 blended, and they retail for $3.23, also blended. So that means a combination of all the different SKUs. That's about what it costs to make one of the different SKUs. This puts their gross margin at around 30%, and then after selling and distribution expenses, it's more like 20%.
That's not good enough.
Of course, then the sharks want to know how exactly they're going to fix those margins. They say they're doing a couple different things. One thing they've done is that they've bought some machinery to optimize the production process, and they've gotten a better deal on their packaging, which will also reduce costs. Last year they did $200,000 in sales, and this year they've done $190,000 in 5 months, and they're projecting to get to $500,000. This year will be their first profitable year, though. Kevin tries the product and immediately falls in love with it because it ends up not spiking his glucose levels. He is worried about how they're going to make any money with the current margins they have, but he decides he's going to take a flyer on them and offers them $100,000 for 20%.
There's only one Mr. Wonderful.
Thank God for that.
However, the women aren't super happy with this offer because it cuts their valuation in half to $500,000, which is what they're projecting to make this year.
Oh, I know that.
Then we get a little parade of the different sharks going out. Mark says it's a great product, but it's just not something he gets excited about, so he's out. Damon loves it, but he has major concerns about the refrigerated trucks and space, and he says, quite frankly, he doesn't even know how they've gotten as far as they have. So he goes out. And lastly, we have Lori, who says they're impressive, but it's just not the right business for her, so she also goes out.
Daniel, so you just know, Mr. O'Leary has an offer, and their
My offer's
destiny
getting toasted.
may be in your hands.
Daniel says he likes them, their commitment, their energy, but he just doesn't like the margins or the frozen space. Because of the sales and everything else involved, he says the best he can do is match Kevin's offer of $100,000 for 20%.
You need to decide if you want to swim with a shark or be eaten by one.
The women then make a counter offer of $150,000 for 15%, which I thought was just a general counter to both Daniel and Kevin, but Daniel did not feel the same way.
Pero Coco, ¿por qué lo estás viendo a él?
I also give you that offer, Daniel. También te doy esa oferta.
No, but you hurt my feelings.
In the end, it doesn't really matter who they were countering to, though, because both Daniel and Kevin say they won't do that deal. However, Daniel says he will give them the $150,000 for 20%. The women talk it over, and they end up making a deal with Daniel for $150,000 for 20%. Final thoughts, I'm really glad they got a deal with Daniel. I'm biased because obviously, as usual, I would pick Daniel over Kevin, but not just because he's Kevin. Daniel does know more about the food space in general, and with it being Latin food, this is just right up his alley. He seems like the perfect partner for this, so I'm very glad they were able to come to a resolution and make a deal. This is also definitely being added to my to try list, so eventually one day maybe y'all will hear a little review from me about it. We'll see. Never any promises about that stuff. And that wraps up season 15, episode 2 of Shark Tank. Are there any products from this episode that you want to try? Maybe you want to be Terramated? Let me know all that and more in the comments, and until then, I'll see y'all in the next one.